Sailors count things. They don't always admit it, but they do. Waves, bells, footsteps on a gangway, heads at a muster drill. You tell yourself it's just a habit, just good seamanship, but then you hit numbers that carry weight. 12 bells to mark the end of the watch. 12 days of Christmas. 12 seats filled around a table. And then there's 13. One too many. One that doesn't fit. One that changes the shape of a room just by being there. Out on the water, they talk about waves the same way. You'll hear old hands say, the 9th wave's the big one. Others swear it's the 10th you really have to watch for. The one that doesn't just knock at the hull. It decides what kind of ship you are after it hits. Tonight, night 11, I want to talk about those numbers. The 12s that feel safe, the 13s that don't. The waves you think you've already survived, until you realize the real one is still rolling toward you in the dark. And somewhere in the middle of all that counting, a Christmas cruise, a passenger list, and one presence that never seems to stay on the page where it belongs. You're listening to Dead Reckoning Radio. I'm the captain who didn't make it back with the Christmas cruise. This is day 11, the 10th wave and the 13th passenger. Tomorrow night is the last of our 12. Tonight is the one where we look at the numbers and ask why they don't behave. On land, you've got your own number ghosts. Some of you were raised not to sit 13 at a table. Some families keep a spare chair empty, just in case, to dodge the bad luck. Hotels skip the 13th floor on the buttons, as if the sea won't notice there's still concrete between 12 and 14. At sea, the stories are saltier. You'll hear about ships that never sailed with 13 in the crew if they could help it. About captains who wouldn't cast off if the passenger count landed on that number clean. Old logbooks hide it in plain sight. Cargo tallies tweaked. One more man before the mast signed on at the last minute. A cook's helper suddenly counted as 2 when a storm was brewing. Then there are the waves. Some coasts have legends about the 9th wave, the biggest in the set, the one that tests you. Other sailors quietly upgrade it to 10. 9 you brace for, 10 is the one you owe. By the time it hits, you've already spent your fear on the others, and that's when the sea takes its shot. Christmas has its own counting rituals layered on top. How many bells you ring at midnight, how many lanterns you hang along the rail for the Christmas watch, who pulls which shifts so the younger ones can sleep, and who stands outside in the cold singing carols to keep their teeth from chattering. Everyone pretends it's about tradition. Underneath, it's all the same heartbeat. Tell me the numbers line up. Tell me if I count this right, we'll all still be here in the morning. So here's my question for you listening from land. What superstitions did you grow up with? The ones about how many, who sits where, who enters a room first. Hold these in your mind for a moment. Now follow me back to a ship that was supposed to have everything counted and safe. A Christmas cruise, a holiday itinerary, passenger manifests nice and neat. At least, that's how it looked the first time through. When you're responsible for a ship full of people, counting becomes part of your bones. You don't just glance at a manifest. You run your thumb down the columns until you can see them when you close your eyes. Cabin numbers, lifeboat assignments, headcounts for a Christmas party on the Lido deck. You feel it when something's off long before you can prove it. On that Christmas cruise, my days were full of those counts. Muster drills, event check-ins, cruise shift rosters. I won't list names. Those belong to the families, not to this broadcast. But I will tell you this. I used to love seeing the numbers line up. Passengers accounted for. Crew present. No gaps, no extras. Clean. after the sea took us sideways, after the spectral current got a hold of our timetable, the neatness dissolved. Not all at once, not in some dramatic stroke where the manifest burst into flame and reappeared written in ghost ink. More like this. Little mismatches. A total that should read 12 suddenly tallying to 11, even though the room feels full. Or a line that should have been 11 showing 13, once you've counted it 3 times and asked someone else to check. Sometimes on the scraps of paper, on the printed sheets, in the fog glass where you try to do the math in your head, my own name sits in a column it shouldn't be in. Crew where passenger should be. Absent where present. Present where, by any sane rule, I should be crossed out. At first, I blamed the sea. Spectral currents twist memory and time. They love to smudge the ink. You can write a thing down at night and watch it shift by morning. So I did what any stubborn captain would do. I tried to reset. There were chances. You've heard me talk about them in earlier nights. Mirror touch harbors where the boundary between your world and mine goes thin. Moments when the sea offers something like a truce and lets a man lean close to shore. No maps, no port names. Just enough of a brush with normal to restock, recalculate, pretend, for a heartbeat, that you're back on a standard run. New lists, fresh headcounts, clean columns. Every time I tried to restart the numbers, they broke again. Sometimes there was one too many. Sometimes one missing that shouldn't be. But there was always a discrepancy. And as the years, or loops, or however you want to measure this, went on, a pattern started to creep in at the edges. I realized that no matter how many times I counted, there was always a sense of someone else. Not loudly haunting, not slamming doors or flickering lights, just a quiet 13th presence threaded through the tallies in the rooms. The kind of thing you only notice the way you notice an extra coat on a rack. One that doesn't belong to anyone you saw come in. Not on any manifest properly. Never seated in a chair you can point at, but implied. Every time the sums don't match. If you've been listening since night 1, you might suspect what I do now. Whatever that presence is, it's been listening to every broadcast, waiting for this part of the story. The Christmas nights, the loop. This is day 10, the Christmas countdown. The captain is This is day 7. This is those 12 nights, 12 days. Sometimes when I switch the transmitter on, it feels less like I'm sending a signal into the dark and more like I'm logging into a system that has been expecting me. Ship, sea, passenger, all colluding in their own ways to keep the count just crooked enough that I might never step cleanly off the page. The more I try to reconcile who was on board, how many trips there have been, what changed on those half-remembered shore visits, the less real those shore excursions feel. They start to look, in hindsight, like side corridors in the same haunted hotel. Pretty wallpaper, different music, same building, not exits. There's a moment, if you stay in the spectral sea long enough, when something subtle flips. Early on, every glimpse of land is a promise. You tell yourself, one day I'll make it back and stay. You talk about hot showers and noisy city streets and Christmas lights that aren't reflected in black water. You make lists of what you'll do when this is over. But seasons out here don't behave. Time folds. The sea carries your choices around like shells in a tide pool. You keep sailing through the same holiday in different angles, passing your own wake, hearing the same carol drift from decks that feel too familiar. Looping Christmas parties. Laughter at the same jokes, glasses clinking in the same rhythm. At some point, without sending you a memo, the axis tilts. You find yourself on the edge of a harbor that should feel like salvation. All those bright, dry, land-bound lives rushing past. And instead of running toward it, you hesitate. Not because the sea is holding you back, because you don't want to step out. Not really. A man can only be told the number so many times that he doesn't fit where he thought he belonged before he starts to believe it. Every miscount, every 13th echo in a room meant for 12. Every shore excursion that feels more like a dream than a memory. All of it whispers the same thing. You're part of this system now. Not just a victim of the loop, but an element in it. Not just a guest at the party, your staff. I won't dress it up as nobility. I'm not staying because I'm some heroic guardian of the in-between. The truth is simpler and more uncomfortable. After you've been in the spectral currents long enough, the idea of leaving feels wrong. The sea that once terrified you becomes the only place your footsteps sound right on the deck. The looped Christmas watch, the repeating headcounts, the broadcasts into static, they feel more honest in their haunted way than the too bright noise of shore life rushing on without you. Land starts to look like the illusion. The cruise, the ship, the endless holiday twilight in the spectral sea, that becomes the thing that feels true. So when I say the 13th presence wants the Christmas episode, I'm not talking about some crackling ghost demanding a show. I mean that whatever pattern is running through this ship, through me, has found its comfort in repetition, and so have I. The miracle, if you can call it that, isn't that I can go back. It's that, given the choice, I'm starting not to want to. So here we are, 11 nights in. We've counted waves and bells and passengers. We've watched the numbers refuse to line up no matter how many times we restart the page. We've felt the sea, the ship, and that unlisted presence nudge the story towards the same corridor again and again. Christmas lights, holiday music, a party that never ends. Tomorrow night is night 12, the last candle in our little advent of ghosts. We're calling it Midnight Mass on a Haunted Sea. That's where everything meets. The real-world legends, the spectral currents, the truces and the miracles, the drowned cities and the mirror harbors, the passenger lists and the 13th echo. And, for once, I won't dance around the center of it. Tomorrow, I'll say the quiet part out loud, that I can go back, that I have gone back, enough to resupply, to take a breath in your air, and that I am still here, sailing a route that feels more like home than any street I've stood on since. Whether you call that escape or sinking deeper into where I truly belong, that's the question we'll leave hanging in the air at midnight. For now, keep your own counts close. 12 days, 12 bells. However many people you've got around your table this year. If you find yourself feeling like the odd one out, the unofficial 13th in a room made for 12, just know you're not the only one keeping the wrong kind of tally. From the Spectral Sea, this is your missing captain, signing off for Night 11.